Hi, I'm Caroline. Thank you for joining me for this session on the feet. We're going to need a prop today, and that's a tennis ball or a ball that's got a little bit of give. So ideally not a golf ball, something as hard as that, something that's just got a little bit of softness to it. I'll put that aside just now. And you may want a blanket because we are going to be kneeling at one point as well, some padding for the knees and the ankles. And once again, I'll pop this out the way for now as well. So we're going to come and lie down. We're going to begin semi-supine. So lying down on your back. And taking a moment to place your feet. So as I said, we're going to be working with the feet today. And we want to make sure the feet are parallel to begin with. So we have that feeling of the toes pointing forwards and the feet being parallel. If you imagine train tracks, a little like that. You can take a moment to maybe widen your stance in the feet or narrow. So just making sure you feel comfortable in your body. The further away your heels are from your body, you'll find you have a little bit more support for the lower back. So just working with your body today. And then a softening in the shoulders to allow the shoulders to soften down towards the ground, towards the mat. And maybe gently closing the eyes, softening the gaze, and breathing in and out through the nose. So just taking a few moments to center ourselves, to bring that focus inwards. Check in with how you're feeling today. And if you have your hands on your belly, directing the breath towards the belly and the hands. Allowing the belly to rise as you breathe in and to fall as you breathe out. Following the breath in and out through the nose. And mentally focusing on this time for you and your feet. We're going to take the hands down by the sides of the body. So the palms are going to be facing down on the floor. You can keep the eyes closed if they are closed. And the gaze soft if that's where you are. And gently applying some pressure to the feet. So it's almost like you're pushing into the feet. And you'll create a very slight or gentle rocking movement. So applying the pressure to the feet and then letting go. And as I push into my feet, I can almost feel my whole body moving. So gentle rocking motion. Hopefully this feels quite supportive. And just take a moment here to notice how as you push into your feet, the parts of the body that move. So maybe you can just feel your legs moving a little up towards your hips. Maybe you can feel this movement resonate all the way through the body towards the crown of the head. So just taking this moment to notice how, as we apply pressure to the feet, it can affect the whole body. So as we walk, that can affect the whole body. So it is said that the flexibility and how we walk affects the whole body, the internal organs, but also so our breathing as well. And then gently slowing that down and letting that go. We're going to begin by drawing in the right knee, gently giving that a hug. Still breathing in and out through the nose. And then we're going to extend the right leg up towards the sky. And you may want to have your hands behind the leg to support it. We're going to gently point and flex the right foot. Five times in total. And then we're going to draw circles with our big toe. So 5 circles in one direction and 5 circles in the other direction. So just waking up the feet and the ankles. And then we're going to gently reach through the heel. So maybe your knee's a little bit more bent. Maybe you're here, maybe you're able to straighten your leg. Wherever you are, reaching through the heel, and we're trying to lengthen the back of the legs a little here. Finding a little bit more length and space in the muscles of the leg. And then gently releasing the right foot, placing that down, and we'll do exactly the same thing on the left-hand side. So drawing the left knee in. And with the hip flexors, inner thighs feel tight. Know that you can let go a little. So just making sure the breath hasn't changed. You've still got length and breadth in your inhalation and exhalation. And then we're going to reach that left foot into the sky. Have a softness in the knees and pointing and flexing 5 times. And then we'll draw some circles. So 5 circles in one direction and 5 in the other. And maybe notice how your motor control is on the left and the right. So you'll be dominant on one side. Usually that will be the tighter side, but it also means you maybe find that drawing circles on one side with one foot is a little bit harder than the other. And then we'll stretch the left heel up towards the sky. Remember, you can have a bend underneath that feels better for your hamstrings. Maybe you're able to straighten the leg and reach up. Find some length in the back of the leg. From the heel all the way up towards the hips. And then gently we're going to release that foot back down. Rolling onto one side, using your hands to push up. So it's a slightly gentler movement. And we're going to come into an ankle or front foot stretch. So we're going to aim to stretch the muscles at the top of the feet. So there are 26 bones in the feet. And there's muscles and ligaments and tendons that surround all of the bones. And we're just going to find a little bit more space in those muscles, a little bit of a stretch here. So I'm kneeling. This is where you might want your blanket. You can place your blanket to kneel on, or a cushion even. And if you find this a little bit difficult on the knees or a little bit too harsh on the tops of the feet, you can also place some padding in between the knees, and that will just make it a little bit soft, a little bit easier. We're gently going to lift one knee at a time. So I'm going to start with my right knee. I'm lifting my right knee up. And this is going to create a little bit of stretch, a little bit of space around the ankle, top of the foot. And then I'm going to lift up my left knee. So we're going to do 2 more on each side. Maybe taking the knee a little higher if you feel able. You'll notice I've got my fingertips on the floor to help me balance. One more on each side. And then we're going to try and bring both knees up at the same time. Now this can be quite a strong stretch, so you might find you want the fingertips or fists either side of the knees. If you have them there, just allow the shoulders to soften here. And we can raise the knees up a little just here. This is where you might want a bit of extra padding, the blanket or the cushion. Maybe you can come a little bit further. If you know you've got a little bit more flexibility, you can almost make it into a balance. There's a little bit more of a stretch. Encouraging the shoulders down. And then gently releasing here. We're going to stretch our toes. So I'm coming up onto my knees so I can tuck my toes under, and I'm going to spread my toes. I'm physically going to do that because my toes don't want to do it on their own. So I'm just bringing a little bit of space between each toe, making sure the toes are in contact with the ground or the mat. And from here, I'm going to bring, I should have said earlier, try and bring the heels together. So they'll naturally want to splay out. You may be able to see mine coming apart. I'm going to work with that in just a second. So once you've spread the toes out, this is where you then have to work out what feels best for your body. So fingertips or fists just here might be enough to stretch the toes. You might find you want to come a little bit further up, or maybe you can sit back on the heels. If any of those three options still feels quite tight, you can come onto your hands or your elbows and just gently go backwards and forwards and bring a little bit of movement there into the toes and the joints. Wherever you are, bringing the hands round towards the heels if you're sitting up, and gently bringing the heels together. So I'm not forcing the heels together, but I'm just gently bringing them together. It might increase the stretch you feel in the big toe. Just waking up the toes here a little. And then gently letting go and releasing the toes. That always feels quite nice when I come out of it. And then we're going to come to sitting. So sitting cross-legged, ideally, you could do this sitting in a chair if that feels more comfortable for you. And you might want to sit on a block. So to begin with, I'm going to take my right hand, my right fingers, and I'm going to slot the fingers in between my left foot. So you'll see I've managed to grab and get my fingers in. It can take a little bit of maneuvering here. And then I'm using my other arm just to support that leg. And from here, I'm squeezing the toes, and then I'm spreading the fingers. So spreading the fingers, which basically means I'm spreading the toes at the same time. We're just doing this 3 times, so a really big squeeze. You might find the palm is squeezing the ball of the foot. It's like a little foot massage. And then spreading the fingers. Squeeze. And then spreading the fingers. And then from here, I'm going to wiggle the fingers out a little, and I'm going to get the pads of my fingers right in between the toes. So it's almost like I'm trying to play a recorder and just applying some pressure there. Breathing, especially if it feels a little tight. Remembering to breathe. And then gently letting go. And we'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. So I'm taking my left hand, wiggling the fingers in between the toes here, as far as you can. And then I'm lifting that foot up and just supporting that leg in any way I can. Just making sure you feel comfortable in the position. You might find it's easier to do this sitting in a chair. And then I'm squeezing the foot, so the palm is also squeezing the ball of the foot. And then I'm spreading the fingers to spread the toes. Squeezing the foot. And spreading the fingers. And one last time. From here, I'm going to take my fingertips in to the toes and pretend we're going to play the recorder. And just apply some pressure in between the toes there as well. So we wear so many different shoes in everyday life. Not all of them are always good for us. So just spending a little bit of time on our feet. I often talk about foundations in yoga, and the foundations can come from the feet all the way up to the crown of the head. So if we start with a good foundation in the form of the feet and the feet placement or the foot placement in a lot of the asana, the yoga postures we practice, and we'll find a little bit more stability and also more space for the breath. And then gently releasing that. We'll come back onto all fours here. So again, if you've got tight wrists today, you can come down onto your elbows. And all I'm going to do here is I'm taking my right foot back, and you'll notice I'm reaching back with the heels and the toes are in contact with the floor. Thinking about the hands here, if you are on the hands, making sure the fingers are spread, inner elbows pointing in towards each other, shoulders rolling back. So making sure we've got that stable strength through the arms. And we're going to gently release the right side and move on to the left. So spreading the toes as wide as you can and reaching back through the heels. And we'll release that left knee as well. We're going to come onto our toes. A little bit of a balance here. So the feet can be a little wider apart if you prefer. Mine are quite narrow. My knees are almost together and already my shoulders have come up here. So I'm dropping my shoulders away from my ears. My fingertips are on the floor, maybe to help me balance. And we're going to come to standing using just our toes. So gently take a moment, find maybe a drishti point, a focal point to help you balance. And we're gently coming up, slowly push through the feet to come into a balance and dropping the heels. We're going to come to a forward fold, Uttanasana, and then we're going to play with the toes a little more. So take a moment, place the feet. I've got my feet about hip distance apart. You may choose to have it a little bit wider, them a bit wider or together. I'm going to lift my toes, spread the toes down, have my hands on the hips. I'm going to breathe in, find that length through the spine. Breathing out and folding forwards, leading with the heart. Have a softness in the knees. And then allow the crown of the head to move towards the floor and the mat. Maybe the fingertips reach the mat. Maybe you're holding opposite elbows. Wherever you are, just take a moment to check in with your feet. So are your knees collapsing in? Can you keep the knees tracking almost over the ankles? Or is the weight distribution in the feet? Make sure you haven't rocked back into your heels or too much into your toes. If you naturally roll in, which is called pronation in the feet, just see if you can correct it gently. Allowing the hands to become free, bringing the hands and the hips. We're going to bend into the knees a little more, push through the feet to come up to standing. Lovely. This is where the tennis ball is coming into play, or the ball of choice. So the reason we want a little bit of give is just to have a bit of gentleness on the soles of the feet. So if you imagine we've got a lot of muscles and fascia on the bottom of the feet, and we're just going to release a little bit more of that tension and tightness we get just from wearing different shoes, but also walking. Our feet do so much for us. We don't often have the time to look after them. So to begin with, you're going to place the ball under the right foot, just making sure the left foot, toes are pointing forwards. There's a softness in that knee. You may want to hold on to something. You may have a chair or a wall nearby, just to help you stabilize. Otherwise, we're gently rolling the ball from the heel to the toes. Applying a little bit more pressure. And if you get to a little bit that feels a little bit tender or sore and you want to relieve that tightness a bit more, just take a moment there. From here, I'm going to go from left to right. Let's try and spread the toes over the ball as well. And we mustn't forget the inside of the foot and the outside as well. So as I mentioned earlier, you could use a small bouncy ball or a golf ball. They just tend to be a little bit harder, so you need to just be a little bit more gentle when applying pressure. And then take a moment, maybe just roll it out the way and spread the right foot, the right toes down, just maybe noticing a little bit of difference. You might find there's a very minor difference. You might find it's quite extreme. So the right foot, we've just very gently massaged the muscles, the fascia, the tissue of the right foot on the ball. And hopefully you can maybe just feel that you've got a little bit more contact through that right foot now with the floor of the mat, wherever you're working today. So we'll even up the body. So just by doing this, you may notice if you were coming into a standing posture, so say tree pose or warrior three, you would have a stronger, firmer foundation to work with as you had released the tissue and the muscles in the foot. So rolling backwards and forwards from the heels to toes, spreading the toes, and then working on the inside and the outside of the foot as well. Careful not to lose the ball. I often do that. And then once you feel you have massaged the left as much as the right, just removing the ball. I'm going to take the ball in my hand and then spreading the toes and noticing how the feet feel. So mine naturally pronate, my feet naturally roll in, and that will be just from over time, probably wearing different shoes or squeezing my feet into shoes when I was younger. Some people will find, you may find that your feet roll out onto the little toe edge, and that's supination. You may find you've got a collapsed arch in the center of the foot. Lots of different reasons. There's also obviously lots of different things that can happen with the feet over time as well. So just taking a moment to notice how the feet feel having been massaged, having spent a little bit of time and love on them. And we're going to come into a forward fold once again. So I'm going to take the ball away and I'll turn side on so we can see how I'm trying to align my feet. So again, I've got a little bit of a gap between my feet, and I'd encourage it this time just to find a little bit more space here as well. I've got my toes lifted, the toes are spread. And hopefully you'll notice once you've lifted your toes, you've got a little, there's a difference between the contact of the soles of the feet and the floor as soon as you lift your toes. So often in yoga, we talk about the 3 or 4 points of the foot. I often say 4. So it's the base of the big toe, the base of the little toe, and the 2 corners of the heels. Some teachers like to describe it as a triangle, so it's a center point there. So whichever way resonates with you, thinking about that contact, those points of the feet and the contact with the mat or the ground. I've still got a lift in my toes, and there's a softness in my knees as well, so I haven't locked my knees. And from there, we're trying to find that length all the way from the contact through the feet up towards the crown of the head. And thinking about the engagement of the legs. So I want you to imagine you've got something in between your thighs. So maybe you want to use a fist and gently grip that fist, or maybe you've got a block to hand, you can put a block in between your thighs. And if you imagine you're gripping something, not too tight, but gently enough, you'll find you get a slight external rotation in the hips. From there, lifting the sternum just a little, trying not to push the belly out or the chest out. Rolling the shoulders up, back and down, allowing the hands, the fingertips to reach towards the ground gently. I know I stick my chin out, so I'm gently tucking my chin in a little. And finding your stable Tadasana mountain pose. I still have my toes lifted. So you'll already notice there's quite a lot going on here. I'm going to lift the toes a little higher, spread them out and spread them back down. And maybe you notice immediately certain things collapsing. Can you keep that engagement through the feet, through those points or corners of the feet I was just talking about? Thinking again about still engaging the inner thighs. So it's almost like you're gripping a block or a ball, something between the thighs. From here, we'll bring our hands on our hips. We're still standing tall, breathing in, breathing out and folding forward. So leading with the heart, there's still softness in the knees. Still thinking about all those points of contact through the feet. That rotation in the hips, that sort of inner grip between the thighs. Shoulders are away from ears, the crown of the head is moving towards the mat. Maybe you're holding opposite elbows, maybe your fingertips reach the mat.
So taking a moment, see how this feels a little different to the last Uttanasana, the last forward fold we practiced. Maybe you've got that contact, you've noticed you've got more contact through the feet. Now we've massaged the soles of the feet with the ball. Thinking still about the inner grip of the thighs, making sure the legs are working and the sitting bones are reaching up towards the sky. And not forgetting to breathe with all of these things we're thinking about and remembering to activate. Bringing the hands to the hips, bending into the knees a little further and powering through the feet to slowly come up to standing. So a very simple session on the feet. I hope you enjoyed that. Please do comment below if you've got any questions or if you enjoyed that session. I hope it's been beneficial. Do click on the link to subscribe, the bottom right hand corner, the little blue grow, and you'll get notifications when more classes or sessions are uploaded from me. Otherwise, it's goodbye from me, and I hope to see you again soon.